Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about next level manifesting, or really what you would call super manifesting. Now, when we look at this reality in life, everybody doesn't quite understand the implications of this. And the reason why it's kind of not necessarily veiled in mystery. I've figured it all out. My book will explain it all. I'll have a course on this. And I have determined that the best way, of course, to explain this and use these energies is through a radionic type system. But it's not limited to your classical radionics. It's not limited to your classical magical procedures. It's a very, very hybrid technology that everyone can attempt to use. And I'll get into that meaning here in a minute. Now, you have to understand things from a much bigger picture. And you've got to understand that the problem with what I call magic lamp technologies is the fact that you don't understand the implications. It's just how, I hear people babble around what they're doing. I have a time machine, a little thing that can warp things, and I have pictures of it. Really? You can turn lead into gold. You can cure people. You have a free energy device. Well, do you understand what that does to society? It totally upsets the cookie cart. So the whole idea is we have, and it's not humorous. When you do something like that, your entire life and everyone you know is in horrible danger. Now, a whole bunch of things have happened. Now, there is a filter so that not everyone can do that. Meaning the fact not everyone can become a super manifestor, can have basically what I would call, almost to use kind of a comical term, superpowers. We try and stay away from those things and use abilities and so forth, extreme abilities. These are all the things you use to sound more civilized. But really what it comes down to is that you're obtaining superpowers when you learn how to do it. But, obtaining superpowers has always been the comical thing to look at. Well, what are people with superpowers? And this is, of course, what everybody wants. And we're brainwashed, which seems to have infiltrated the entire reality of the society, where everything now seems to be a comic book movie, comic book TV series, comic book toys. And these were ignored for years. It amazes me that, comic books have been around for a long time. Yet you really couldn't get anybody to make a decent movie. There's been here and there. We had a Hulk, the Incredible Hulk series on TV. I don't know if I think that was the 70s, which was a damn good series in general. So we've had some of these things, but when you look at these people, it's the usual low-level human understanding of things. And basically, nobody really went anywhere, studied or perfected it or anything else. The only person who has kind of developed things, which is kind of one of my favorite superheroes, is Daredevil. Because Daredevil was just a man with super heightened senses. And this had to be developed. There's a few people who went to some training. I don't know if you could say that Doctor Strange, etc., went to some training someplace. But, this is never really emphasized very much. So, it's really the fact of the Superman principle, which is, on my planet, I'm a wimp. On Earth, I'm the god. So, this is what we all want. Nobody wants to work at anything. Nobody wants to do anything. Of course, that is a fantasy that people like to sell you stuff about, which is not real. Everybody wants that, and I work diligently as an engineer to make things as easy as possible so things can work for everybody, at least at a very fair level. But people don't want a fair level. They want that super manifesting. I certainly understand it, but life isn't really like that, because what you're doing is you're now running into magic lamp reality. Now, what's a magic lamp? Well, a magic lamp means you rub it, as we all know, and you make your wish. And a genie pops out and grants it, no matter what that may be. Well, first of all, that isn't even a real story from Middle Eastern mythology. That was added by the French after they were selling Middle Eastern mythology, and it caught on. But they ran out of stories. So that whole Aladdin and his lamp and the ring and the open sesame, all that stuff is invented by a French author, which is interesting as well. So it wasn't even really in Arabic or Middle Eastern mythology. While they do have lots of jinns, which are just another word for spirits, and everything else that are good, bad, and indifferent. So, and of course, all that's been labeled evil by the Middle Eastern Islam. Because jinns are demonic, which of course is everything that's going to empower you past following their belief system and paying their caliphs, priests, whatever it may be. So, I mean, you got to remember there's no difference between any of these religions because they all come from the same place. They all are really saying the same thing with their own little variations. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, it's all the same. So it's really not much different. So anything you get from the Middle East, particularly that are semi-modern, except going back to the ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, etc. But all the stories that are in the actual Bible are all coming from those old sources. And then things get warped per the unavoidable and horrible situation we have called the human race and consciousness. But ultimately, all very advanced technologies are based on human consciousness. And why is this? Well, this is the great filter. Now, if everybody had a magic lamp that they could rub and then pop up whatever they wanted, well, the world would be a complete mess and nothing would have value. So if everybody could pop up a bar of gold, win the lottery, cure themselves, well, what would happen to the entire planet? So there is a very important understanding to have here, and to understand the kind of power you have when you understand and apply subtle energy physics, because subtle energy physics is the closest thing you're going to get to the magic lamp that there is. And I have figured out the entire way the universe works, and that means in terms of manifesting, because nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how Pluto is made. It doesn't matter Saturn is gas. Is a planet made of gas? Apparently Pluto's not a planet. Too small, so Tyson says. But Saturn, which is just gas and really has no mass, is a planet. Well, this is the kind of stupidity you get. So who cares? What does that mean to any of us? So I ain't planning on going there. I don't know anybody from there. I don't see how that has anything to do with our little spot in the universe. So as we get into all these things, we have to really understand the bigger picture here. So when you get into this, you're getting into the ultimate of ultimates, where you can, as an individual, and boy, that's scary to think about, can control the forces of creation and the universe to a large degree. And what's more important is you control this within yourself, your family, your society, and ultimately kind of the earth itself, if it gets to the level that you can. So this is something we have to fully understand of what's going on. So now, if you can create anything you want, and you can destroy anything you want, meaning that if you can assemble these energies, these forces, as Newton used to call them. Of course, Newton was a good metaphysician, and that's the term he used, was forces. And of course, that's what it is. It's a force, to put it in a better way. So I really, I call it energetic, and of course, but it's really a force. It's an energetic force. So, if everybody could do this, not that. Well, let's say that everybody, or let's not even say everybody, just say a lot of people. Now, what percentage of that? Even 1 or 2% can pick the lotto numbers. Well, there would be no lottery. So what if you can win at Vegas? Well, there'd be no Vegas. So the whole idea is we have to understand these things of being able to manifest out of nothing. So what happens here is what's created is an elite group, which is basically what radionic tech is about. It's about an elite group of people who are using the forces of manifestation to create what they want in their life in a basic force energy level, moving into, hopefully, in the future of even getting to the actual physical creation as possible. But this is very, very long off and probably not within my lifetime. But who cares? You don't care about popping something physical up in front of you. That's kind of a primitive, stupid way of looking at things. When you think like that, you're falling back into your man-made idiot consciousness created by scientists and boobs. What you're talking about is creating the energy fields that produce that for you. So if you can create an energy field around you that makes you win at games of chance, or makes you pick the correct stocks, or just even increases your profits dramatically, well, isn't that the same thing as a magic lamp? It just has to go through proper channels so the entire universe isn't messed up. So I hope everybody understands that, and because this is a very important part of the whole manifesting reality and the reality that we live in, which is just full of mental case liars and cheats. Everything you can possibly think of out there is. And this is not the people in power. You know, I'm getting to, after getting into so many different research projects as of recently, and the people involved in them, basically your psychotic CIA agents are much more smart and balanced than the general public, who are nothing but a bunch of nut job crazy people that work for them anyway, and you flip them a nickel. So really frightening how bad everybody is. Now, none of them are seeking in any way to do anything that has value and truth to it. It's just they want to make up fantasies, and it's amazing how much of the public jumps on these ridiculous stories. These are fantasy stories that are basically pulp novels, and they're trying to sell it to you as truth. Unbelievable. But that's why consciousness is hooked up into this new technology, and why consciousness will always be. The problem is machines, as much as people want to, oh, that's a great machine. Is it? Well, I mean, where did that machine come from? So let's really get down to what a machine is. What is AI, which is no such thing as artificial intelligence? It's a program running information. No. They want to talk about fuzzy logic and all these. None of this makes sense. The human mind hasn't even been mapped or figured out to 1/10 of 1/10 of a million percent. So nobody really knows anything with that. We have the usual crude understanding. Oh, electrical charges, and there's some chemical in the brain. This is what we have. And of course, you are a strange electrochemical battery unto yourself. You are kind of a little battery, because you are this chemical battery. And of course, your brain is shooting off these electrical charges. If you don't shoot it off, you fall down to the floor. That's called a seizure. And your light switch turns off. An amazing phenomenon. I don't know if anybody knows anyone with seizures, but not only is it frightening to you and who is happening to, but it's the light switch. Nothing, and the people don't know it's coming, and they don't know what anything is about, and they go out. And this is concerning to me because of the fact that, well, where is the consciousness going? Is there consciousness there? We talk about near-death experiences and everything else, but when your brain turns off, which is what happens with a seizure, what happens? This is something that needs a great deal of study. But we can't get caught into the great conundrums of life, the great questions of all questions. So the whole idea is that we have to look at these things in a very detailed fashion. So where does all this energy come from, and how do we filter it? So if everybody can do that, as I said, this is a planet, and I always thought that maybe the average person had some intelligence out there and was based in things. Now, my people, and the people who are listening to this, the few people that get my word, that support this organization, that are all access members who like and follow, well, these are smart people, and they're balanced, and they get it. But you got to remember that Radionic Tech is a very unique organization teaching a very unique understanding that is really for a tiny percentage of people, and always should be. We don't want to arm the maniacs out there. I mean, it's really sad, these average people that want to grab their little 3 seconds of fame and want to just spew lies just for their own side. And they're not looking for anything but ego empowerment, and they're complete idiots on every single level. So the whole idea is that we need to fully understand that. So it's not just the people, so-called, that are victimizing others. We hear these funny stories about MK Ultra and so forth, and these people that are doing things to control others. Well, and obviously this is horrendous stuff to a certain degree. On the other hand, these are nothing but cattle. Should you really care if you have a higher cause? The problem is your higher cause based in anything other than profit? Well, it really isn't. It's based in profit and power. So all of these things get into this great mishmash of clouded, stinking, rotten feces, unfortunately, because people as soon as they get any kind of power, they're not doing anything good, and people don't want, extra money or to live okay. No, they want to live in opulence. And to do all these extremes, of course, creates a larger level of perversion. But the whole idea is that consciousness technologies, and which, as I said, computers are not. There's no way you can ever make a computer that's conscious. You have to make the computer. What we don't understand is we like to give power over to objects in terms of what they do. Now, again, making machines is generally not the point. Machines are good for, cleaning the streets, cleaning your windows, cooking your food, whatever it may be. So, refrigerator's a machine. These are the kind of things that, those are machines. You want to sit there making cold all day, dragging ice up there. That's what they used to do. You want to rub two sticks together when you're hungry. You want to heat your coffee, rubbing sticks together. You want to pop it in a microwave. That's what machines are for, and they do very particular tasks. And that is a low-level but very important machine that everybody needs and should have to save time to do what? So I can be more rotten. Well, that's really what it boils down to. You're supposed to have more time so you can explore the higher things of life. But, you got to remember when you're in hell here and everybody is a demon, and that includes everyone, particularly people they could be in your family. They certainly are your next door neighbors. So all these things. To just demonize the people, quote, in power is a fool's understanding. Somebody's letting them do it, and it's generally the masses. So now to who's in power, the masses of 8 billion people outnumber them by probably hundreds of thousands or millions to one. But nobody will do anything like that, and they're easily bought off, they're cowards, etc. So all of these things we need to look at in the bigger picture. And the problem here is you want a flip-of-the-switch machine to go to these kind of imbeciles, dangerous, evil imbeciles. Well, of course not. So real technology, of course, they can use a toaster, they can use a refrigerator. Well, what are they going to do with that? Is that going to really hurt anybody in the kind of bigger picture? Well, not really. So these are things everybody uses. It's not an advanced tool to affect others by much. But then technology starts to move into things. And of course, you have your scientists who have built destructive, horrible weapons to murder everybody. And they somehow think this is science, and they should be doing that, which just shows you the lack of intelligence and morality that scientists have in general. These are all interesting things to look at in the bigger picture so we all know what's going on. But let's cut through a little of this stuff. So, advanced actual technologies are consciousness-based. Consciousness, to use them to their highest and best level, requires some dedicated training and development, which is something that is done in kind of a very high level. You also have to connect with positive energies that will teach you and empower you. Now, there's certain low level of technician type work that you can do through consciousness. This is, of course, how most of your negative, evil, and satanic people work, is that they are connecting to a very base level. But what I've seen with all these people is they really don't have much power. None of them have much power. They're not really doing anything. They follow one stooge after another, and they don't require them to produce anything. And this is very typical, and they're very uneducated, very boring people that really don't get it. And they're particularly uneducated when it comes to spiritual empowerment or consciousness empowerment, which is the ultimate. They just don't get it, and rightfully so. So certain technologies and physical machines and so forth, and we've seen how a lot of very negative type people are able to build these primitive machines and do well with it in different war situations, etc. People who really don't have any morality, and at this point, there are no good guys. So the people building all the technologies are all the bad guys, because there ain't nobody good out there. Basically, it gets down to the level of evil. The minute people have a little power, the minute people get a little comfort, what do? They go into spiritual, they go into decadence and hate, and they just want to abuse everybody. They want to push their will. They want to live like the lowest level they can. They're just involved in money, sex, and power. And this is pretty sad. I mean, that's what money brings you? Well, that's right. I've never known a rich person who wasn't only into that. They're not really doing anything. Maybe some people give to charities or other things. To a certain extent, that's a cop-out. If you're really rich, why are you giving money to organizations that probably are bad at what they do, like the Red Cross? Well, if you're super rich, you should put together an organization that you monitor, find good people, and have them go out and do it. You know where every dollar goes. I'm going to give to the Red Cross. Or I should say to the director that makes, I forget what the act figure, but I believe the head of the Red Cross is making close to $1 million. We do know that I think it's 6 or 7 people in the Red Cross are making $500,000 to help the poor. Because we have to get good people. Well, we have to pay mercenaries to run the Red Cross. We can't find somebody who can live on a measly $200,000 a year. Or more like 150. We can't live, let's say 120, 10,000 a month. We can't find, they're not smart people that live on that. So, this is the kind of nonsense that you run into. So, how do you filter everything out when this is the major problem? So, if everybody is empowered, and we have too much of this going on right now with primitive technologies, but it still is a skill. If you're a hacker or a computer person, well, you got to know a lot about computers. So, you had to put a lot of hours in learning that. Again, it doesn't build any kind of credibility or anything else to it. Certainly religion doesn't build anything. All the criminals out there are Christians, basically, or have a religious belief system. So certainly that's not going to happen. We've had religion for, going back to the Jews and Buddha, for 4,000 years, and Christianity for 2,000. And what do we have left here? And where is the gray? We live in one of the most corrupt worlds we could possibly have. And who's out front waving the banner is some sort of religion. So all of that we need to understand that these are not how things are going to work. So people who believe strongly in any kind of society-based realities. Now that means if you believe in religion, if you believe in political beliefs, you're not at a consciousness level to create extreme abilities. And this is what I've been talking to people for a long time. Well, I try to educate people on how this world is and how bad it is and what's going on with all the corruption. Because you're not going to reach levels of empowerment unless you discard all these belief systems. And that's political. People, I love my country. You love a political system? Or you like the colorful flag, whatever rat hole you come from? Well, that's the lowest mentality that you can do. Anybody who says that's a real boob. And you're not going to get any kind of empowerment. They're certainly not going to break through to these high levels of empowerment. Now, you may find, as this world is ran by, because this world isn't ran by any kind of mystical or intelligence power. It's ran by guns and gangs. Very effective. Why would you want to worry about whether a spirit's going to help you when you can get 50 guys with clubs and everything else and just kill people, take over, blackmail them? No, all this stuff is backed up by what? No matter how you blackmail somebody, it's backed up by the threat of violence. So that's how everything's right. If you think everything else is, if you think that this scare tactics, I call it the Genghis Khan reality. Because, Genghis Khan used to send his troops out to the different places he was going to invade, and they would tell stories of how he butchered and killed everybody. And a certain percentage of these people would say, oops, we're in big trouble. Huh, Marty? We really did fight? We got no chance of fighting. Well, we better just surrender, Marty. So this is what you run into. And it's very effective. And if not, at least you have demoralized. And part of what's amazing how much belief in terms of your personal empowerment has to do with your success. I mean, there are many, many stories of people who have been horribly outnumbered, even been under siege for months. I remember some stories in the Crusades where they were under siege for months. A certain group of Christian holdouts, and they were starving to death. They had disease and everything else. And some guy comes out. And there's a whole famous story of this, and they dug down. So the priest said, "I know that there's Christ had that. So he dug down and they find this little piece of wood saying, this was Christ's cross. Everybody just went insane. Oh my God. We're the most powerful people out there. So they went from this starving, they charged out of their castle, and they beat the enemy who outnumbered them 10-1. And they were sick with no food or anything else. It's amazing what this kind of motivation can do. But you want to make sure you kill that through the fact of sending out emissaries to this. So the bottom line is that's, of course, what the, quote, whomever they are and whatever it is, and, of course, they want you to believe in Illuminati. They want you to believe in all these control factors and how powerful they are, even on a supernatural realm, because that really scares people. But they don't work that way, and there's nothing supernatural about blackmailing somebody, getting information on them, running criminal rings to pretty much compromise everybody, which is done with pedophilia and all sorts of other things. So they set you up, and then that means that you have a particular problem there. So it's not the fact that anybody's casting spells here. Anytime that these things are incorporated into anything, it's for the psychological effect. And, the general public, when you start doing, quote, magical stuff, is very scared of it because they're very ignorant. So here we go is how they brainwash you. So, it's just gangs and guns. It always has been. And they, of course, own everybody else. And the gangs and guns. Got to remember that gangs and guns, little tech problem there. The gangs and guns, of course, are backed up by more gangs and guns, and then the gangs and guns in your society. So there's the gangs and guns that are outside of your society, otherwise known as organized crime, but they all blend together. Then they get the gangs and the guns that are your so-called friends and the people you pay to victimize you. So the whole idea is that this is how the entire society works. So don't think that it works like that, and don't think that this is what's happening, that there's some. Now, rituals have always been done and everything. We have our entire churches are nothing but rituals, and that's there to mentally control you and to have a deeper effect on you. Now, so to use super advanced technologies, you have to have a super advanced consciousness. You have to let go of all this negativity. You have to know how corrupt society is. You have to be separate from it. They're not going to empower you if you're going to be stuck in those realities. Now, there's an interesting little TV show in the 70s called The Greatest American Hero. Which was a fun show. I think it was on for 3 years, and I used to watch it all the time. It was this guy who got super abilities, and they gave it specifically to this guy because he was a balanced person. But it was based in having this suit on. And interestingly enough, which is, a cool concept, is that the instruction booklet to this suit was lost. Now, he eventually, this common average guy, eventually was working with what would be a right-wing or conservative FBI agent. Now, the suit wouldn't work for the FBI agent because he was stuck in his own personal thing. So he wanted to go out and, I'm going to put the suit on and go and attack Russia and everything. This is the type of thing that was thought of. And this show, I think, was in the late 70s. I'm not sure. That was out there. Very fascinating and interesting show. I guess you can see that online somewhere. Had a very hit song there as well. That was a very big, exciting song. But see, this is what happens. The technology doesn't work for you if you're caught in some sort of belief system. So if you're stuck in a belief system past universal law, which the entire universe runs on, which is, I hate to use the term, but it's very similar. I guess you would call it the old Ten Commandments. Nothing new about the Ten Commandments at all, and some of those are really bogus as well. But the bottom line is we all understand what universal law is. You don't rob, rape, and murder people. Nobody justifies this in any society whatsoever. You're happy enough to do it to other people, but you don't do it to your own people. So we keep all this in mind so that we understand what's happening in that bigger picture, and we understand the fact of what's going on to empower yourself. So if you're going to get stuck in these paragrams, you're not going to be able to use this next level technology. Well, at least not to the level that everybody wants it. Now, the technology works for everybody to a degree, but if you want this super level of manifesting, this super control, so the point is, if you can get to that level where you build matter and you take matter apart, and again, don't get caught in the physical here as much. All you want to care about is building force energies around you, meaning that's a force. That's why I say informational energetic fields, meaning it's not just an informational field, it's energetic. And I think I'm going to add that term force in there. As I said, Newton used to use that to explain the energy, and he was an alchemist, and an interesting one, even though, again, he's kind of another strange person caught in religion, which is the reason why he didn't really get anywhere past certain levels. And I'm not sure if he believed in that or not. Back then, if you weren't religious and writing religious books, they tend to tie you down and cut your skin off just for fun. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that as well. So the whole idea is you're going to have to cast away all that stuff, get rid of all your belief systems, because there is no belief systems that have any value. You get trapped into a political system, into a sexual position, into a racial position. You are now getting into the actual belief and control factors that shut you off from ultimate power. You can't be operating as a particular type of person. You have to be operating as a citizen of the earth, because that's what you are. You're a citizen of the earth and, to a certain extent, the cosmos. When you say that I'm a female citizen, I am a black citizen, I'm an Asian citizen, or whatever it is that you come from, now you're nailing things down. Now you just disconnected from the cosmic power. You're not a cosmic person. You're not a person even of this earth. No, you're a female of this earth because you feel you're victimized more than others, and the same thing with people of different colors. Well, this is true and not to a certain extent. And so the bottom line is that we're not going to fix things by giving rights to women or blacks, etc. What do you mean giving rights? They already have rights. We need to enforce rights for everybody. Nobody should be sexually harassed, persecuted because of any reason whatsoever. Because once they get rid of the women and the blacks, they come after everybody else. This is certainly a proven reality that we have. So this is ridiculous. It's basically about me being in power and me taking what you have. It doesn't matter. It's easy to rally your little club around to attack somebody else or victimize somebody else. But when they're done with, you victimize your own. And this goes on and on and on with all societies. So we need to fully understand all of that way of operating. So you have to disconnect from all these things. You are not a person who comes from Belgium. You're not a Belgian. Yeah, I talk like this because I am. I'm Vendôme. Don't talk at me, I kick you in the face. I'm also a very dedicated Christian. Like all these French tend to be. They're all great Christians working with the great Satan of the EU who controls them. And, of course, putting non-Christian values in France and everything else. So it's all the same kind of stuff that goes on, but you've locked yourself into that belief system. You're not going to get very high with that. Not in the ultimate technology. Maybe you could move throughout society because you got money and power. Well, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the ultimate next level of empowerment, and that is the use of subtle energy physics, which is a proven, unlike regular physics, which really isn't proven whatsoever. It's all, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Oh, how does this work? Maybe. I mean, that's really what they're telling you. It's their theory. And of course, my theories are good because I studied, I wrote a paper on the cosmic poo. I'm looking at space rocks all day. I'm a genius. So I spent years looking at Pluto so we could decide whether it was just a handball or a basketball, right? So the whole idea is that this is the kind of nonsense that goes on out there. So we have to look at that. But if you're going to tie yourself into that, you're not going to get anywhere tying yourself into that reality. So not with this kind of. Now, You may be able to invent stuff. You may be able to figure out a computer program. You got to remember, these are not technologies. And everything that we build comes from us anyway. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence because the artificial intelligence isn't intelligence. It's been programmed by a human. And we want to keep moving away from that, thinking that machines are better. Yes, machines are better. I don't want to hold a Bic lighter up against my toast or bread to make toast. No, I want to use a toaster. Oh, that toaster is so much smarter and better than me. No, it's not. You made it invented. You had to dig everything out of the ground. You had to form it into molds. You had to put it together. You understand the process of that? Where do the machines do that? A lot of people think that, we have all these products from China and stuff that, they just pop out of the mold like that. Oh, it's a fully functioning machine. Well, machines are not molded in one piece. They have thousands of pieces. Somebody has to assemble them. So we've decided the slaves of the world will be the Chinese. How nice of us. And of course, when you support that, you support the fact of them against us. So the whole idea is that this is how all the world works, and we have to be fully aware of it. But you're not going to be empowered if you think like that, not with the next level technology. So this is why, of course, why I always stress that, and it takes practice. This kind of next level technology is not a machine that you flip a switch on. It's a consciousness-based machine that has to be developed through the process of developing it. Meaning, Thor, you're a broken record. I'm sick of hearing it. Yeah, that's right. Centering, cult gym practices, visualization tools, all the things people don't really want to buy. So, hey, you're limiting yourself. Secondly, if you're going to think through the system you were brought up in, and of course, it's very difficult to release particularly religious things. I've always, for most of my life, fallen back on the fact, let's give Christianity another little break. Let's give it a chance again. And every time they do that, it's worse than it was before. So the whole idea is these are the worst, rottenest people you can possibly get involved with. Anybody involved in formal religions. Now, everybody is religious, so it just depends where you fall in there. Are you following the stupidity of it all? Well, if you are, then there's a serious problem, and we need to understand that. So, and you're not going to get empowered. It isn't going to work. Have you got the smarts? Do you know what you're doing? Can you go to these levels? Have you opened up the energy fields, your chakras, your third eye? Well, you got to do all this. If you want to have these super manifesting abilities. So that's what has to be. And very few people reach that. So you have to train yourself properly. You have to go through all the courses. To think that people don't want it. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to traditional schools, and a lot of that doesn't even really necessarily get you a big job. You're kind of forced to it. But people do this all the time of what they spend money on and train themselves. This is a necessity of life. This is what's going to save your life on every single level. And of course, this is what brings you up to high energetic situations as well, so that you can survive all of the plagues coming, or the normal plagues we live with. People don't think about, they talk about all these viruses going around conveniently. And of course, well, I'm a genius. We don't have nothing for viruses, though. You cut your finger, we got a Band-Aid. So the whole idea is that this is what we have, and it's never going to change. So because it's controlled for money situations. They don't give a damn whether you die. Everybody else apparently doesn't quite get it. They want to pollute the same planet they're on, but you got to wonder what's going on here. How psychically evil are these people? And they are. And they somehow think that they're going to be able to step on you at the last minute and still survive. That's where people are coming from. Really sad. So the whole idea is you're not going to get to those kind of levels of empowerment. And then you're going to grow in empowerment based on how you can release and get that baggage off of you. You can kind of see it as a visual image of that you're carrying all this stuff. You got a backpack on, and, I like to wear vests and, cargo pants. You got all these pockets, and you got this vest with pockets, and your shirt's got pockets on it. And they're all filled with crap. And you're climbing a pretty big hill. Now, the bottom line is we all know that the more weight you carry, the more stressing it is. So you want to get to that top of the hill where you want to get to your ultimate empowerment, but your pockets are full of garbage. So first thing you do is you start taking stuff out of your cargo pants. Well, I need this stupid little book. Throw that away. I need this little nonsense image of some fake God. Let's get rid of that. So this stuff that connects me to my sex or race, well, let's get rid of that. So these are the kind of things where all of a sudden you're getting lighter and lighter and you're climbing that hill. But can you get rid of all this baggage? Because you got to empty that backpack and all your pockets to get to the top there. And very few people can do this. And of course, you're pressurized by your family and everything else. So, if you don't want to believe and go to church on Sundays or whatever it is you're forced to go to, well, you're a leper and you're not part of society. So you have to figure how you manipulate that. You can go and pray on your knees to whatever God you believe in. Or not necessarily believe in, but you can play the game. It doesn't mean you believe it. So it's not necessarily smart to go in and scream fire in a crowded church. So that's not a smart thing to do. It's going to get you in trouble. So the whole idea is that what you want to do is play the game. And, there are people within these structures that maybe can help you. So the whole idea is, you play the game. Do you believe it? No. You're using it as a power structure while you're disconnecting yourself in the deep consciousness way from those belief systems. So, this is the whole bigger thing you get into. It's called being Machiavellian. You like that word? Yeah, I learned that. So the whole idea is that all that stuff gets down to basically what you're talking about is cunning to achieve your goal. And you got to remember you're in with a bunch of psychotic, evil murderers that would destroy you in a second. There's nothing wrong with following a system and to be helped by it to a certain degree. And of course, you're not in there hurting anybody. You're not destroying them. But, if it comes down to that, if you have to, well, they would kill you in a second. So all of this comes down to what exactly is going on there for all of these situations. So you look at all these things, and this is where you get higher and higher up this mountain, but you're going to have to get rid of all this trash, and your backpack is full of garbage. Something happened to you, you've been prejudiced, you believe in something foolishly because Uncle Ned told you it was important, or you were hurt or molested by Uncle Ned, or whatever it may be that is out there that has warped your mind to keep you off the path of empowerment. Because the people that are running the primitive technologies we have today don't want you empowered. This kind of technology scares the hell out of them. So, and all of this training. And of course, that's why radionic tech has always been marginalized by the fact that there are people constantly working against us, and these are organized, paid people to make sure that our word doesn't get out there. That's the name of the tune. If you're listening to this, you better get some of the tech that we have now. Life is very precarious, and we're here today and gone tomorrow. We've done a long-term survival, but we are always under threat. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows how it can function? This is the way the world works. So don't think anything's going to be here forever. Learn well, learn it now. So all of this is a reality that we have to look at now because we're dealing with the most awesomest technology ever invented now. Now, this is all going to come out in the next year or two. All of this is going to be put down in writing for prosperity. Those good people who have followed me, who are my supporters on Patreon, who are those people that are all access members, those people I've known for years, you're going to get these kind of things. It will come to you. The other people, do we even want to empower them? Well, not really. I'm not too interested in helping the average Joe with his problems that are based probably in his not really getting it. But of course, we help people all the time. So hopefully by helping people, they see the light, so to speak. So this is all part of this entire process, and it has to come from consciousness. Consciousness is developed. That's why great religious powers that has been talked about are people that claim to have these things are done through a priesthood, and the priesthoods are constantly 24/7, 7 days a week. People are concentrating on connecting to that power of that particularly God form and system. And this is when they then someday, of course, access that power for personal empowerment or for whatever they're doing it for. That's how it all works. So, and that's a way of filtering things. If everybody could just tap into some sort of very potent energy, well, here again, we'd go back to this chaotic situation. I mean, people are at this unbelievably low levels. And I've seen this now, and again, it's not the people in power. It's all the little people that claim they're trying to help people. They're trying to do things. These people are as corrupt as you can get. I can certainly see why there are people running organizations that certainly have to control the masses who seem to be complete evil scum. So don't be blaming everybody else on top. As I've always said, look next door. That's where the problem is. So the whole idea is that all of the things going on out there have to. So the new level empowerments is a new way of doing things. You have to become a kind of what you would think as a monk. You become a subtle energy physics monk, a radionic monk. So this is what you have to be. And what does that term mean? Well, a monk is someone dedicated to a particular path at a very high level. That's what you need to come. And you don't let other things come in. You don't believe in comic book gods and stupidity and countries and race. And so you don't believe in any of this stuff. You believe in the ultimate empowerment, the ultimate purity of subtle energy physics. And that's what the whole world runs on. When you wind into or get connected to any kind of strong belief system, well, you've messed things up. You are now put yourself in a box, and that box then isolates you from the greater empowerments that you get by connecting with these informational energetic fields or forces. I think I'm going to change that to forces. So the whole idea is that this is what you're talking about. And I used to talk about this years ago called the soul force, because that's what the soul force is. The soul force really is your scions connecting with the occultons. So the whole idea is that this is how it all works, and it's not complicated. The problem is everybody's touched into these things a little bit, but nobody's figured it out except me right now. And of course, it's not about understanding it on an intellectual level. Who cares? It's about applying it into your life and channeling it so you can manifest what you want. And that's why it comes down to this is manifesting science. What is it? It's subtle energy physics. What is subtle energy physics? It deals with the manifesting energies of the universe, because it doesn't matter whether it manifests here on this little rock in the middle of this galaxy. The manifesting energies are the same everywhere. It doesn't matter what planet you're on. It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter whether the cosmos has built a gas ball of energy. That it doesn't matter. The same principles to build Saturn, Pluto, Mars, whatever. All the energies that went into that, and all the other fictitious science you want to think of, whether it's the quote biggie bangy or whatever. That happened because of subtle energy physics, the essence of creation. All of that comes from there. So it doesn't matter how you want to put a name to it or you want to claim what happened. All that stuff is unimportant. And what's important is how do you manifest in your life now? How do you use these energies now, here and now? We're not other places, and we're not spiritual beings in terms of not being physical. We're subject to the physical realities of this planet, and we want to control that as much as possible. And you're only going to get that control if you're balanced, and you are balanced into the light, into the good, or you're not going to get it. Now, can you brush up against it? Can you abuse this to a certain degree? Well, of course you can. And of course, this is the eternal fight against good and evil. And the point is that, but nobody's going to reach any high levels of manifestations unless they understand these things. I see people, I work with people all the time, and I can just see the different people that really aren't balanced this way, and they struggle in life. They're off center. They're basically involved in negative things, whatever that may be. And all of this is part of the reality of them not getting high levels of empowerment. So they get little breakthroughs. We push them through one door. They do okay for a while, but boom, they're right up against another door that is shut. So then we have to open that door for them. So this is a process of things happening all the time that we then have to shove them through the next door. But the reason this is happening is because you're not really balanced very well. And when you get certain tools, or even when things are done for you in a higher energetic level to change your life, it doesn't work that well because you are not balanced. You don't get it in the universe. But the fact is you're constantly under attack in this world by negative forces or one reason or another. Because unless you live by yourself, you have to deal with the people you're with. And I can tell you right now, all these people are negative. It doesn't matter, screaming, it doesn't matter what they are. They're all negative. I've never met hardly anybody who's a real positive person. So one way or another, they're still stuck. They're still carrying that backpack full of garbage. Now, hopefully, as you go along, and, you took this course of ours, you centered yourself. Well, here's a big package you can take out of your backpack. You've opened up your chakras, your third eye, your empowerment centers. That's another big chunk you can take out of your backpack. You learned high-level visualization, another thing you take out of your backpack. Well, all of this is part and parcel of what's going on to actually get rid of these bricks on your back that stop you from making it to the top. So if you don't make it to the top, if you're struggling, well, you better look in your backpack. You better look in your pockets of your shirt and your pants and everything else you have to find out what are you bringing with you to stop your level of empowerment. That's something that you need to start doing right now. So what are you carrying that's holding you back? Anything that has to do with radionic tech are the most fascinating, most powerful tools ever produced on this planet, period. Do they work for you because they're a flip of the switch and everybody should have an A-bomb in their pocket because, hey, I want that power? Well, of course not. It doesn't work like that. Because if you can go out and manifest anything you want, you will disrupt the world. And ultimately, it'd probably mean your destruction. If you start winning lotteries, people are going to show up at your door with guns and you're going to be working for people. They're going to take your family. They're going to blackmail you. You think this is not real? You're in hell, baby, and you're in the worst hell it could possibly be. You better figure out exactly how it all works. So you have to examine yourself. These tools work and work well, and they work at certain levels for everybody. So the more you empty your backpack, the more you're free of encumbrances, the better everything manifests for you. And that's the reality that's out there. And everybody has a certain level of problems they're going to run into. And of course, you're listening to this and buying and following this kind of belief system because you're an alternative person. But the problem is, are you alternative too much? Are you living in a fantasy? I'm just amazed of how stupid and ignorant. I'm not talking about the people listening to this or my customers and supporters, but I listen to other people, and it's really been an education. And while I've been doing this recent investigation on satanic cults, of how messed up and rotten people are, it's unbelievable. And the stories they believe. It's just mind-boggling that someone gets on there and then they have a few thousand people that listen to them. Wow. People who write comic book books claiming these are real events. It's just amazing, with zero credibility behind them. And they just kind of stand out there and say, I hold a sign above their head saying, I'm a stupid, rotten liar. Buy my books. Okay. And I hate to say it, but there's enough people saying okay to keep these people in business and quite fat and sassy. So these are all the things that go on. You have to break past. So if you're having problems, if you can't connect to things, what baggage are you carrying? Do you have ridiculous belief systems? Are you stuck in whatever it is in your reality? I am this. People label themselves. I've always found that amusing with America because Americans never label themselves as American. They never say I'm an American. No, I'm an Italian American. I'm an Irish American. I'm Afro American. Whatever it is. Really? No, you're an American of that descent. No. So you label yourself. All right, so you've already put yourself in a box there. And this is the reason why America will never work out. Because basically it's just 150 million people of different belief systems. There's no unity there. And there never really was, from what I understand, in the United States, except during World War II. People really felt that this was something they had to get together with and be as a people together. But nobody ever worked together only then. And that was scary to the people in power because the people in power, of course, didn't want that. So this is how all these things go. I mean, the history, if you look at it, is really frightening. And people don't understand it. And they're no worse than all the people that did all the other things. And, of course, nothing's ever handled properly. We go through major traumatic things where millions of people are killed. Nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. Oh, that was yesterday. So this is the way all these things work. But, you'll find the societies that do prosper are those that consider themselves a particular group of people. And they stick together. And that's, of course, everybody in the world does that except Americans who are worthless and they don't stick together. And that's why they're a dying society. The only thing keeping America going is the fact that there is so much of a population of people that you can do just about anything in America and you can find an audience for it. Well, you can't, people don't understand the population. There's 350 million Americans, which means, you could start a orange toy car society and you would get, few thousand people that would join that. You want to do that in Norway? Who could you, 8 million people who will just eat the fish? So the whole idea is that you're never going to get anything. You can't find out of a small population like that. And you got to remember that all of these countries have small populations. Your average country in Europe has 60 million people per country. Some have a little more, and of course the people that have more populations tend to be those that have bigger economies and tend to rule Europe as well. But the bottom line is you're talking about tiny little populations. Of course, that's why the EU was started, to use that kind of physical bodies to go against others. The problem is that, there's multiple languages there, so nobody really gets along. The only people that get along are the bankers. But the whole idea is that that's the reality of it. So you segmented yourself into this, you've disempowered yourself, and how long are you going to keep doing it? So how empty can you get your backpack? How much junk can you take out and throw away? And of course, this is threatening and difficult as well, because now what you're saying is, I don't relate to this person, I don't relate to this group, I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm not this, I'm not that. Well, then what are you? Well, that means you're isolated, and this is a difficult thing to get through, and this is where depression and problems come in. That's why most people on this path tend to be isolated already. They're not the people that are all that friendly, that know too many people, because they already have their little connections, and they're already getting what they want in life. So finding somebody who is, quote, has friends and buddies, well, who can relate to these people? If you want to sit around the table, when I was growing up, most of it was going to the sports bar and watching big guys run into each other. What is that all about? Well, this was a way people formed quasi-friendships, eating garbage food, drinking garbage beer, and watching other people have fun. I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is what happens with people, but this is what they did apparently. And they somehow got this quasi-satisfaction out of really having superficial relationships, just like people kind of do today on the internet. You don't have a friend if they're on the internet only, because nobody relates to that. And you really can't have a friend unless you live near them where you can physically commune with them. So you can't really have friends at a distance, just like relationships. It never works, but it's working more for people now, but they're not really friendships. It's amazing how I've seen so many people that are communicating with people, and they have their little influencer things. And the minute these people drop off their influencing contacts, nobody contacts them. Nobody emailed, how you doing? Haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Are you all right? They don't have each other's phone numbers or anything else. In this day and age, phone calls don't cost you anything. It's free. Anywhere in the world. They don't get calls. Are you connected to that person? Well, of course not. You've never seen them. They don't really care. All the stuff that particularly goes with that. So the bottom line is that this is all being isolated. And being isolated serves the purpose of people that want to control you, because you're going to have to grab onto somebody to survive in the society. So you're going to then go along again, another control factor. And you've done that because you've refused to have proper communications with people. I mean, it starts through different internet and other things. But, people need to ultimately get together, meet each other, spend a little time together, and organized to a serious degree. Somebody needs help, or you need to be close to each other to a degree, or in a way being able to do that. But ultimately, people that get together, the Mormons worked. Why did the Mormons work? When you became a Mormon, up until even recently, you moved to Salt Lake City. Other Mormons took care of you. That's how they grew into multi-million people, and why they have so much money, and why they're a strong reality. And I'm not talking about their belief systems or anything else, but Mormons take care of Mormons. That's how you do it. You don't do that if the guy lives in Podunk, Utah. He has to move to Salt Lake City, where everybody's at, so everybody can assist each other. And you'll get a job through them. They'll hire you at your guy. It's amazing what the Mormons do. It's amazing that they're not more successful. So the whole idea is that this is how they actually work. But the Mormons have always been very rich. Why? Because they put all their money together. They started Las Vegas. There's a whole huge area out there that people don't understand what came from Mormon financing and Mormon banks. So everybody doesn't get it. And they are a tiny group of people. I don't know how many Mormons there are, but there's not that many of them. But, it's amazing what a couple of million people can do that organize together, because nobody else is. So a couple of million people can rule billions. That's how it works. So, of like-minded people. So, but when you isolate yourself, you're going to be isolating yourself from everything. But, empowering yourself is something that has been worked on because of the problems with all this. People have to empower themselves with actual individually. And hopefully you have kind of a universal place or a main, quote, office which you can get feedback from to kind of keep you going, like I'm doing right now. Connecting with this organization, being a member of it, listening to these particular lectures is all about empowering you indirectly, which is very important because you're not going to hear this from anybody else. So if you think you're going to go out there and survive contact with the world, well, you're not, because people are going to feed you junk. You have to be empowered by someone that has the same viewpoint as you and that is guiding you on a higher path. And that's what it's all about. So hopefully it's been very helpful. Until next time.